Welcome to the Mindset Mile podcast, the show that'll leave you empowered to take action towards becoming the turned up version of your already awesome self. I'm your host, Aisha Zaza, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's go. Hey friend, welcome back to another episode of the Mindset Mile podcast. Let's talk stress management. Because stress is something that we all experience. And of course, there are seasons of life where stress is higher. I mean, really, there are even just days where stress is higher. And I want to give you some tools for what to do when those days come around. Because they will, and they're not bad, but unchecked stress, especially over long periods of time, can be. So it's super important to be aware of your stress levels and make sure that you are refereeing them, okay? So first, it's going to help a lot to just acknowledge and validate your feelings. Stress is going to make you more reactive naturally. Little things are going to set you off, and you might have less patience for things that you can normally let roll off your shoulder. And often, we realize in retrospect that we overreacted, which can also breed some guilt, which then creates layers of heaviness that don't make it any easier to navigate stress. For me personally, I find I also generate resistance around certain stressors. I can tell when I'm trying to not feel it or experience it. And I've learned over time how actually draining it is to try to not acknowledge the feeling and just to try to make it go away instead of just allowing things to feel hard for a short period of time. When you can sit with how you're feeling and just acknowledge that, yes, right now, feels stressful and things are harder than normal, and that you aren't making up, that it's actually hard physically and emotionally, this will actually help you manage your stress better. It's not going to make it go away, but it's going to feel kind of like permission, like you're giving yourself permission to just have your feelings without judgment. Second tip is to replace unrealistic expectations with realistic ones. This has been the biggest learning curve for me in the last several years, especially since becoming a mom, because a large part of what used to stress me out and still sometimes does are the amount of things I want to get done in the very small windows of time that I actually have. And when I can't or don't get to those things start to feel kind of overwhelming. And I get in this headspace that questions why I even try to do anything. And it's just not a very productive place. Having ambitious goals and being a driven person, if that's like your personality type, that has served you in many ways. But learning when to harness that back has been a real game changer for me. The more simple I can make the day and the fewer things I put on my to-do list, the more effective I am and the more productive I actually feel. So take a step back and be honest with yourself if your expectations of yourself or what you're able to get done are too high. Is it serving you to have constantly high expectations you're never meeting? Does it feel encouraging? Does it make you feel proud? Probably not. Newsflash, there's always going to be more to do. Lighten the pressure on yourself. The stress really isn't worth it. My third tip is to create routine and structure anywhere you can. If you identify as a hot mess because you feel reactive to most of your day and are setting out with like a general idea of what you need to do, but you don't have a real game plan, I really want to encourage you to start making one new routine that is going to eliminate some of your daily chaos and stress. You guys know I'm a big bed maker. I make my bed every single morning. It's a very small but mighty habit I've had for years, and it may seem insignificant or irrelevant to how the rest of the day goes, but it actually does set the tone for my day, and it starts my day with a win, which is encouraging to keep getting more little wins throughout the day. Another example, I created my meal prep book, Well Prepped, as another example of how I've created a system in my life that has served me and my family big time. I learned that doing one big prep to set myself up for easy weeknight cooking twice a week that makes big batches of food that we can eat all week long, right? All these leftovers. It gave me two very important things that I want and need in my life, which are one, healthy, homemade, and delicious food all week long, and two, more time. It's freed up my mental capacity and my physical capacity to do other things that I need to be doing and want to be doing. Something I learned recently that blew my mind is that the indoor air we breathe is 2 to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air. And in some cases, up to 100 times more polluted, according to the EPA. And air pollution is responsible for nearly 7 million premature deaths globally. We've personally been using an air purifier in our home for a few years, but I haven't appreciated how much work it was doing until now. The Air Doctor is an air purifier that filters out 99.99% of dangerous contaminants so that your lungs don't have to. This includes pollutants such as allergens, pollen, pet dander, dust mite, mold spores, and even bacteria and viruses that make you sick. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day breathe easy money back guarantee. So if you don't love it, just send it back for a refund minus the shipping. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code MindsetMile to receive up to $300 off air purifiers. And exclusive to podcast customers, you will also receive a free 3-year warranty on any unit, which is an additional $84 value. Go get your Air Doctor purifier today at Air Doctor Pro. That's AIRDOCTORPRO.com and use code MindsetMile. So this has helped me reduce stress around feeding my household because it's a system. It takes the guesswork out. Where can you create systems and routines that will reduce mental stress? My fourth tip is to have a creative outlet. If all you're doing is work, you're going to reach burnout. It's not a matter of if, but when. And I understand it may be hard to imagine fitting a creative outlet in, but it doesn't need to be something that requires a lot of time. Maybe that looks like unwinding at the end of the night by working on a puzzle for 10 minutes, or reading a book in bed, or working on your side hustle, or just any passion that you have. Like if you love painting or organizing or curating looks for your friends, like whatever that is, find something that brings you joy and do that as close to every day as possible, even just for a short amount of time. There's going to be less room for stress when you're being intentional about filling your cup with a little bit of joy. My fifth tip is to change the script in your head that is beating you up. Oftentimes, stress can lead us to take on the responsibility of why we are so stressed out in the first place. It feels like we're failing when we can't get it together, right? But changing the way that you talk to yourself is going to make a big difference. So instead of saying things to yourself like, I'm failing at XYZ or as XYZ, replace it with, I'm learning how to get better at XYZ. Instead of saying something like, I'm a bad parent, say, I'm a good parent who's having a hard time. One of my very first episodes on this podcast is called There Is No Failing, Only Learning. And really, this last tip is all about that. How can you look at your situation differently that doesn't add shame to your stress? How can you take a learning lesson out of everything that you're doing? Doesn't mean that you aren't going to feel the stress, but turn it into a learning opportunity, even if it just is as small as what to do slightly better tomorrow that's going to make your day run smoother. Those are the things that are going to reduce the amount of stress in your life. I really hope these tips helped you become a little more organized with like how to reduce the stress in your life. I really do. These have been game changers for me, so I hope they are for you. And if they are, please tag me on social media so I can see which episodes you're loving at Aisha Zaza. And I cannot wait to see you next week, my friend. Until then, make it a great day.